Butterflies in her stomach.
I'm meeting her parents tonight, and I have a bad case of butterflies in my stomach. I had terrible butterflies before I gave that talk in Venice. The butterflies in my stomach almost kept me from going on stage and performing. Whenever I have to speak in public, I get butterflies in my stomach. She always has butterflies in her stomach before a test. It was not frightening enough to give me butterflies in my stomach, but it made me a little apprehensive. I always get butterflies in my stomach before making a speech. I'm starting to feel the butterflies in my stomach already. An exam, or even an exciting social event, may produce butterflies in the stomach. He had butterflies in his stomach on the morning of his wedding. Kevin had butterflies in his stomach every time he saw her. Every time I look at her, I get butterflies in my stomach. She felt butterflies in her stomach whenever he was around.
Que azar.
I just heard that Janet broke up with you. That's hard luck, buddy. Failed again, I'm afraid. Oh, hard luck. I failed my driving test. Oh, hard luck. Hard luck, chaps, but that happens. Don't despair too much. We lost again. Oh, hard luck. You lost your job? Oh, tough luck. They lost a lot of money on their investment. Tough luck. They should have been more careful. You didn't get the job? Oh, tough luck. I think I've damaged my back. Oh, bad luck. I was up 2 pawns and had a winning advantage, but blundered it all in one move. Tough luck.
Sem graça.
She wrote dull articles for the local newspaper. He's a pleasant man, but deadly dull. I find his art rather dull and conventional. For years, he's plodded away at the same dull job. Those books seem rather dull beside this one. The ponderous reporting style makes the evening news dull viewing.
O enfadonho estilo de reportagem fez o noticiário da noite ficar sem graça de assistir.
The ponderous reporting style makes the evening news dull viewing. I felt she found me boring and dull. The documentary lasts for more than 2.5 hours, and there is scarcely a dull minute. She felt embarrassed about undressing in front of the doctor. I was too embarrassed to admit that I was scared. You have no idea how embarrassed I was. He was so embarrassed, his face went brick red. She looked a bit embarrassed by all the praise. I was too embarrassed to admit that I'd forgotten. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. She was too embarrassed to ask for help.
Passar a noite acordado.
We stayed up all night talking. Kate stayed up all night by his bedside. The kids were allowed to stay up all night on New Year's Eve. We stayed up all night chatting about old times. I stayed up all night watching the Olympics on television. They stay up all night, and then they don't do their job properly. I was up all night yesterday because I had drunk so much coffee. She had been up all night studying. The cafe filled up with students who had been up all night. We were up all night trying to figure out what to do. Our son was up all night long with a headache, so everyone is feeling pretty tired today. The book was so interesting that I sat up all night reading it. The nurse sat up all night by her side. My parents sat up all night waiting for me to come home.
Dar nome aos bois.
I've found a witness willing to name names. I hate to name names, but Brian and Mitch were the ones who did the graffiti. I saw it myself. I'm not going to name names, but several of you have been coming in late and going home early. This needs to stop. More than one person was involved in the robbery, and his lawyer said he would get a shorter sentence if he named names. Some of our neighbors disobey the town's leash law, but I'm naming no names. He was under pressure from the police to name names. If the newspapers really know the people responsible for these terrible crimes, then they should name names. I won't name names, but there are some people in this room who have broken several of the club's rules. She said she would never name names, even if she were offered money. If you're convinced my staff is part of this operation, then name names. Nobody was prepared to risk prosecution by actually naming names.
A mais de.
We've been affiliated to Hosteling International for more than 15 years. I've been maintaining strong international partnerships for more than 25 years. We have been providing innovative manufacturing technology for more than 15 years. This library has existed for more than 400 years. The brand has been making history in the naval industry for more than 75 years. I'm starting to get worried. He's been gone for over an hour. We've known each other for over a decade. She's been an outspoken feminist for over 20 years. I've been smoking for over 10 years, and I can't stop. Bentley has been providing solutions to highway agencies for over 3 decades. CFAR has served the chemical and mining industries for over 50 years.
Vaquinha de presépio.
He was a huge yes man. To be sure, this skepticism of the yes man mentality has advantages. Becoming a dull yes man seemed too big a price to pay. I totally agree, the yes man said with a smile. They are all a bunch of yes men. A country of yes men is a country marked for destruction. That can happen to rich guys, particularly those who prefer to surround themselves with yes men. This is making the policemen seem like subservient yes men. He accused the president of surrounding himself with yes men, rewarding only sycophancy and punishing dissent. None of those yes men that you call advisors will ever tell you what you need to hear.
Noivo e noiva.
Have you met Christina's fiancé? Let me introduce my fiancé. She couldn't wait to show off her fiancé to all of her relatives. My fiancé just bought me this. Isn't it gorgeous? Does anyone know where the groom is? The bride and groom walked down the aisle together.
Ayo.
The expression on the groom's face when he saw the bride was priceless. Now, if you'd all please raise your glasses, I'd like to propose a toast to the bride and groom. His fiancée is insisting on an elaborate wedding. It would be unfair to marry your fiancée without being honest with her. I even bought a pearl necklace for my fiancée, but she married somebody else instead. If a relative announces his engagement, you must at once go to see his fiancée. After the ceremony, the bride lifted up her veil to kiss her husband. In some countries, it is traditional for a bride to wear white. The bride and groom posed for pictures outside the church. As the mother of the bride, I feel obliged to wear something really spectacular.
Madrugador.
Good thing I'm an early riser, or else I'd probably miss the beginning of school.
Early riser.
I was surprised to see him asleep at 10 o'clock, as he's normally such an early riser. My wife and I are early risers, usually up by 6 o'clock. Maybe he was always such an early riser because he grew up on a farm. He'd always been an early riser, so getting up for a morning run wasn't a great chore. He was always an early bird. I'm usually an early bird. I enjoy the fresh morning air, the first rays of sun, the quiet. Being an early bird allowed me to get a lot of work done while everyone else was sleeping, and there were no distractions. It is the early bird who gets the bargains, apparently. It is the early bird who gets the bargains, apparently. It is the early bird who gets the bargains, apparently. Everyone wanted to be an early bird and cash in on the sale. The early bird gets the worm. Are you more of a lark or an owl? I'm definitely a lark. Already as a child, I enjoyed getting up early in the morning. You are not much of a lark, are you? getting up at 11 a.m. every day. He's not really a morning person. He doesn't even talk before about 11 o'clock. Try not to schedule yourself for 8 a.m. classes unless you're truly a morning person. I'm a morning person and like to get most of my work done before midday.
Amor de infância.
He married his childhood sweetheart last July. She was my very first childhood sweetheart. She was my very first childhood sweetheart. How cute! Maddie drew his childhood sweetheart. The football player ended the 18-year relationship with his childhood sweetheart, saying he no longer loved her. On December 20th, 1769, Gerard married his childhood sweetheart, Elizabeth Mountjoy. Risa was married to his childhood sweetheart, the Norwegian model Guri Havnevik, from 2003 until they divorced in 2004. It's been 1 year, 22 weeks, and 4 days since he got married to his childhood sweetheart. They came home proud war heroes and married their childhood sweethearts. They were childhood sweethearts and had been together for 11 years. He and I are in our 30s, but we were childhood sweethearts and have been married for 15 years. She and Fred were childhood sweethearts, but she refuses to admit that. Carol married her high school sweetheart after a 10-year relationship. She married her high school sweetheart when she was very young and stayed at home to raise their 4 children. He married his high school sweetheart in 1969, and in 1970 their first son was born. She married her high school sweetheart and gave birth to a son, but the marriage ended a few years later.
Jogar sujo.
Don likes hockey, but he plays dirty. The opposition had started to play dirty. I'd watch out for that prosecutor. I heard he isn't afraid to play dirty if it helps him win a case. I'd watch out for that prosecutor. I heard he isn't afraid to play dirty if it helps him win a case. Of course, even when somebody plays dirty, losing is losing, and it's not long before nobody cares about the details. During the next election campaign, don't be surprised when Labour Party plays dirty. There is no way I would devalue the honor of playing for my country by playing dirty, Harrison said. You can win without even resorting to playing dirty. The bad news is that they are doing what they always do, playing dirty. They could play big, they could not play at all, and they may turn up to find their opponents playing dirty. He stars as the infamous Rankin Fitch, a jury selection specialist not afraid to play dirty if it gets the results his clients pay him big bucks for. Their team started playing dirty as soon as they fell behind, throwing sand into other players' eyes or stepping on their toes when the ref wasn't looking.
Pode crer.
say that again. It's hot. You can say that again. She's in a bad mood. You can say that again. This is so boring. You can say that again. Brother, you can say that again. Wow, that exam was brutally difficult. You can say that again. It was the hardest test I've ever taken. What a relief that Brian didn't get hurt. You can say that again. That was a pretty selfish thing for him to do. You said it. How stupid of me to lend him that money. You said it. I've made a terrible mess of this. You said it. Let's grab something to eat. You said it, I'm starving. This cake is yummy. You said it.
Noivo e noiva.
They decided to get engaged. Debbie and Jake have just got engaged. We got engaged about this time last year. He asked her to sign a prenuptial agreement when they got engaged. We got engaged on my 18th birthday. Alicia sported a gorgeous diamond ring after getting engaged to Ed. She got engaged to her childhood sweetheart as soon as she left school. I can't believe we are engaged. I'm so happy. She was engaged to some guy in the army. How long have you been engaged? She's engaged to someone she met at work. You know Kelly's engaged to Chris, so stop flirting with her. This photo was taken when we were engaged.
Não ver palmo à frente do nariz.
Of course she's oblivious to the growing homeless population in our city. She can't see beyond the end of her nose.
She can't see beyond the end of her nose.
Of course she's oblivious to the growing homeless population in our city. She can't see beyond the end of her nose. Thomas hasn't hired an orchestra for the Christmas concert. He just can't see beyond the end of his nose. When it comes to the environment, sadly, this government can't see beyond the end of its nose. You're too busy thinking about you and about everything to do with you that you don't see beyond the end of your nose. He probably thought she was an overprotective, neurotic mother who couldn't see beyond the end of her nose. He explained his vision for the company, and I believe he can't see beyond the end of his nose. If I asked her opinion, she likely would declare that you can't see beyond the end of your nose. Why didn't you tell me that she can't see beyond the end of her nose? She asked. He couldn't save money or make plans for the future. He just never saw beyond the end of his nose. People who always complain about school taxes would stop it if they could see beyond their noses and understand the importance of first-class schools. In financial planning, you need to see beyond the end of your nose.